Hello students, welcome again to another class. I know that you are very excited to be in this class, and that's the same way I am also very excited to be in this class as well. Now, do you remember that in the previous lesson we studied something about, yes, can you remember? Linear equations. You are right. And you remember the spelling Lineaequations. The spelling is very important. You remember, right? Yes. And you remember that in that same lesson, we learned about the 3 steps involved in solving linear equations. Do you remember? Can you take us through? Yes, the first step is to group like terms. You are right. And the second step is to add or subtract the like terms. Then the last step is to divide both the right hand side and then the left hand side of the equation by the coefficient of x. I know you've been able to remember all these things. We are not done with linear equations, and today we want to continue with another subtopic in linear equations, and that is linear equations involving brackets. Linear equations involving brackets. Now the question is, how do we solve equations that involve brackets? Have you seen an equation before, or have you seen an equation with a bracket before? Okay, so let's see what an equation involving a bracket looks like. So on the board, we have an example like a plus b in one bracket. So you see there is a bracket, then we have a plus b, then another bracket that closes it. So this is what we mean when we talk about a bracket. Then what about a linear equation involving a bracket? How does that one also look like? So let's see that how that one also looks like. So we have an open bracket, that is 2x minus 3, then a closed bracket equals 16. Now you can see that we have a bracket on the board and then we have an equation. So that is what we are trying to talk about. So an example like open bracket 2x minus 3 close bracket equals 16 is an example of a linear equation involving brackets. So the 2x minus 3 in that bracket is what makes what we have a linear equation involving brackets. Now the question is, how do we solve an equation of this format, or how do we solve an equation that looks like that? So that's what we are going to discuss in today's lesson. So when you look at something like this, you might think it's very difficult to understand or very difficult to solve. But do not worry, guys. It's so simple, and we are going to go through several steps to understand or to be able to understand something like this. So just focus and you will enjoy this. Now, if you have a bracket or a bracket in an equation, what's the first thing to do? The first thing to do is to think about how to expand the bracket. Again, if you have a linear equation involving a bracket, the first thing that you must do as a student is to think about how to expand the bracket. The key word here is expanding the bracket. So how do we do that? So the element within the bracket, you are going to multiply it by the element outside the bracket. No, so how is that done? Let's see how that is done on the board right now. So on the board we have an expression of the form a open bracket x plus z close bracket. So we said that the first thing to do is to expand the bracket, right? So what do we do? How do we do it? So you see the number outside the brackets, the expression outside the bracket, you multiply that expression by the terms inside the bracket. So it means that a, which is the term outside the bracket, will multiply each of the terms that is inside the bracket. So we are going to have an example like a multiplying x, then after that you're going to have a multiplying z. So let's see how that is done on the board. So a multiplying x plus a multiplying z. So what does the answer become? You're going to have the answer to be ax plus az. Do you see the bracket? No. So you realize that the bracket has been expanded, so you don't see the bracket anymore. So that is how to solve a question involving brackets. So that is how to also expand a bracket when you have one. So now, if it is inside or if it is in a linear equation, that is, you are having a bracket in a linear equation, how is that one also worked on? So let's take a look at an example on the board and go through together on how to solve an equation like that. So the example we have on the board is 2x plus 3 equals 16. Now, don't forget, 2x plus 3 is in a bracket. Now, the question is, how do we solve this question? So let's see. So let's take a look at a comprehensive example. So the example on the board is an example or a comprehensive example of a linear equation involving brackets. Now, the question says, find the value of x in the equation 3 open bracket 2x plus 3 close bracket equals 5. So you can see clearly that there is a bracket in the linear equation. So I ask you now, student, what is the first thing to do when you see a bracket in a linear equation? Yes, exactly. You first expand the bracket just like how we discussed. So let's try expanding the bracket. So this means that we multiply the number outside the bracket by each term inside the bracket. So that means that 3 will multiply 2x, then 3 again will multiply 3. Yes. So let's try that on the board. This is right. Now, 3 multiplied by 2x will give us an answer to be, yes, 6x. So let's write that 6x plus 3, multiplying 3, and the answer will be, try. Yes, 9. The answer is going to be 9. So let's try writing that too. Okay, so we have 6x plus 9 equals 5. Now let me ask you a question. Can we still see the bracket there? No, it's off. So that means that we've been able to expand our bracket and we have a linear equation just like the one we studied in the previous lesson. So we can follow the steps that we studied in the previous lesson, right? Good. So we know the first step is to group like terms. So let's try doing that. Now 6x. Do we have another counterpart on the other side? No. So 6x will stay. Then we have 5x on the other side and 9. So we need to group them. So 9 will go to the other side and we are going to have 6x equals 5 minus 9. And in the previous lesson, we learned that if a number moves to the other side and it's positive, it changes and becomes negative. So that is why we have 9 now changing to become -9, because it has crossed the equal to sign to the other side. Now we are going to continue with the next step, that is to add or subtract the like terms. Now we know 6x is the only term on the left hand side, so it stays there. But then on the right hand side, we can add or subtract something. 5 minus 9, and the answer is going to be this easy, so try that. Yes, that's very good. The answer is going to be -4. Let's try writing that too. 6x equals -4. Great. And the third step, you remember, right, is to divide both the right hand side and the left hand side by the coefficient of x. And in this particular equation, the coefficient of x and the number is 6, right? So we multiply or we divide both sides by the number 6. So let's try that. So we know dividing 6 by itself, and the answer will be x. That is 1, which is the same as x. Then to the right hand side, we have -4 divided by 6. And can 6 divide 4? No. So we need to find a common factor that divides both 4 and 6 at the same time. And then the number that can is what number? Try. Yes, the factor is 2. So we are going to divide both the denominator by 2 and the numerator by 2. So -4 divided by 2, and the answer will be -2. And again, 2 at the same time will divide 6. So 6 divided by 2, and the answer is, yes, it's 3. And again, remember that the minus sign always stays if it is 1. So we are going to have our answer to be minus 2 divided by 3. So therefore, the value of x is minus 2 divided by 3. So when you have a WASI question of this format, they always require you students to provide your answers in this form. So if you finish and you have your answer to be maybe x equals minus 2 over 3, kindly remember to add the last part of the answer, which is the value of x is minus 2 over 3. So what did we study in this lesson? In this lesson, we studied something about linear equation involving brackets. Now, how do we solve questions like that? First, we expand the bracket by multiplying the term outside the bracket by each term within the bracket. Then after that, we would have a full linear equation, and then we'll use the 3 steps to solve it. I'm happy you've been able to follow this lesson. I wish and earnestly want to meet you in the next class. Bye, students.